The strange signal. The night sky above the alien world was silent, filled with strange blue stars. Alex, a young explorer, walked carefully through the dusty ground of the forgotten planet. He was far from home, far from Earth, and the loneliness of space pressed heavy on him. But he had a job to do. His scanner beeped softly in his hand, showing weak signs of life deep inside the ruins of an old alien city. Alex frowned. This planet had been marked as dead, abandoned long ago. No human explorer had found proof of living creatures here. And yet, the scanner picked up something strange. A heartbeat, weak but steady, mixed with faint static. It was impossible, but it was real. Curiosity pushed him forward. He entered the ruins, stone walls broken and covered with strange alien carvings. Shadows stretched across the walls, making him feel like the ruins were watching him. Every sound of his boots echoed too loudly. The air was thin, almost empty, yet there was a smell of something burned long ago. He felt danger, but he could not turn away. The signal grew stronger, guiding him deeper inside. Soon he reached a wide cave beneath the ruins. His flashlight shone on claw marks across the stone walls. Long, deep scratches that spoke of something powerful. The scanner beeped louder. His heart raced. Something was here, something alive. At the center of the cave, Alex froze. There, resting on broken rock, lay a glowing shell, cracked open. It was large, bigger than his backpack, and soft blue light pulsed from its surface. It was an egg, but not like any egg he had ever seen before. And beside it, weak and trembling, was a small creature. The hatchling looked unlike anything from Earth. It had scales that shimmered faintly in the dark, a long, thin tail, and tiny folded wings. Its body glowed with faint light, as if fire lived inside its chest. The creature was breathing hard, each breath shallow and weak. It made a soft sound, a cry that was both strange and heartbreakingly familiar. It was calling for someone, maybe its parent, maybe anyone who would listen. Alex's breath caught. A dragon, he thought. An alien dragon, just born, abandoned, alone. He had heard myths of dragons as a boy, fire and wings in old human stories. But to see one here alive was beyond belief. The hatchling lifted its head slowly. Its eyes, bright silver and glowing, locked onto Alex. For a moment, the entire cave seemed to grow still. There was no sound, no echo, only the silent bond between a human explorer and a newborn alien creature. Alex stepped closer, his instincts torn. His training screamed inside his mind, "Do not interfere with alien life. Do not change what you do not understand." But his heart spoke louder. This creature was alone, weak, dying without help. If he walked away now, it would not survive. He knelt down, lowering his scanner. The hatchling let out a soft chirp, weak but hopeful. It tried to stand but fell against the broken shell, too fragile to move. Alex reached out slowly, his hand trembling. When his fingers brushed its scales, warmth spread through him. It was alive, truly alive, and it trusted him. But then he noticed something else. On the far wall of the cave, strange marks glowed faintly, symbols carved by an alien hand. They looked like warnings, a story written in stone. Beside them, he saw deeper claw marks, far larger than the hatchlings. Something dangerous had been here, maybe still was. His scanner flickered again. A new signal appeared. Large, moving outside the ruins, circling closer. His heart pounded. The hatchling made another soft cry and pressed against his hand, as if begging him not to leave. Alex swallowed hard. He had a choice. Leave the hatchling and escape while he could, or stay protected and face whatever was out there. He felt fear, but stronger than fear was a promise forming in his chest. He could not walk away, not from this small life, not from his creature who had no one else. He whispered, his voice low but steady, "You're not alone, little one. I'll take care of you." The hatchling blinked, as if it understood. Its glowing eyes softened, and for the first time, it let out a small sound of peace. Alex lifted the creature carefully into his arms. It was light, warm, and fragile. But in that moment, Alex knew something powerful. This was not just a mission anymore. This was the start of something greater. The scanner beeped sharply, warning of the large shape outside, moving closer. Alex tightened his grip on the hatchling. His pulse raced as he stepped back from the glowing shell. The cave suddenly felt smaller, darker. He could hear faint growls echoing in the distance. Whatever left those claw marks, it was returning. Alex turned toward the cave entrance, the hatchling safe against his chest. The ruins trembled faintly, dust falling from the cracked ceiling. He had found something impossible, something magical. But now he had also been found, and the true danger was only just beginning. The choice. The wind outside the ruins howled through broken towers, carrying dust across the empty valley. Alex held the small alien hatchling close, its faint glow casting silver light on his suit. Every beat of the creature's weak heart pressed against his chest, reminding him of the impossible decision he faced. The scanner in his hand showed the moving signal again, large, heavy, and slow. Something prowled outside, circling the ruins as if searching for what had been taken. Alex tightened his grip on the hatchling, his mind racing. His training came back to him in sharp commands. Rule 1. Do not interfere with alien life. Rule 2. Avoid carrying unknown species onto human ships. Rule 3. If threatened, retreat. He could hear his instructors' voices in his memory, cold and strict. Yet when he looked down at the hatchling's glowing eyes, those rules felt meaningless. The creature whimpered softly. Its body was small and weak, but its eyes carried something powerful. Trust. It had no one else, no parent, no family. If he left it here, the predator outside would finish what had begun. This was not just a scan or a discovery. This was a life, and it had chosen him. Alex whispered to himself, "What do I do?" His voice cracked inside his helmet. No one was here to answer. He was alone, but not completely, not anymore. The hatchling shifted in his arms, stretching one tiny wing. It pressed its glowing head against his chest, as if begging him not to leave it. The sound of claws scraping stone echoed faintly through the cave walls. The predator outside was growing impatient. Alex's pulse raced. He could run, leave the hatchling, save himself. But his heart rebelled at the thought. Memories of Earth flickered in his mind. His little sister holding a stray kitten in her arms, refusing to let it go. She had once said, "If you can save something small, you must because no one else will." Those words returned to him now, stronger than any training rule. The hatchling gave another weak cry. It was not just a sound of need, it was a sound of hope. Alex felt it deep inside him, like the creature was speaking without words. He knew what choice he had to make. He pulled the hatchling tighter and whispered firmly, "I'll raise you as my own. I'll protect you." The vow echoed through the ruins, carried by the empty air. The hatchling blinked slowly, then made a soft, peaceful sound. For the first time, Alex felt its tiny heartbeat grow steadier, as if it understood. But he had little time. The scanner flashed red, the large signal moving closer to the cave entrance. Dust fell from the ceiling as the ground trembled faintly. Alex's instincts screamed to move. He carefully placed the hatchling into the small emergency carrier on his suit, adjusting the straps so it rested safely against his chest. The warmth of the creature spread through him, calming his nerves even as danger closed in. His other hand gripped his blaster tightly, the metal cold in contrast to the hatchling's warmth. Step by step, Alex began to move toward the mouth of the cave. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound sharper than the last. The ruins whispered of ancient stories, of battles long forgotten. Symbols on the walls glowed faintly again, as though warning him of the choice he had made. Suddenly, the predator's growl echoed, deep and menacing. A pair of glowing eyes appeared in the distance, just outside the ruins. The creature was massive, larger than a human transport vehicle, its body low to the ground, scales jagged like broken stone. Its breath came out in hot gusts, steaming in the cold air. It sniffed the ground, following the scent of the broken egg, following the scent of the hatchling. Alex froze, his breath sharp. The predator's head turned slowly toward him, its gaze locking onto the faint glow from the hatchling pressed against his chest. The bond was no longer secret. The enemy had found them. For a moment, time stood still. Alex felt the weight of his vow like fire inside his chest. He could not fight this monster here, not yet. But he could protect the hatchling. He had to. The predator let out a roar that shook the ruins, dust falling like rain from the ceiling. Alex whispered one last promise, steady and unshaken. "You're mine now, little one, and I won't let anyone take you." With that, he turned and ran deeper into the ruins, heart pounding, the hatchling safe in his arms. The choice had been made. There was no turning back. Man and hatchling, bound together by fate. And somewhere in the darkness behind them, the predator gave chase. The hunt had begun, a bond beyond worlds. The small ship sat hidden in the shadows of the canyon, its metal surface scratched and worn from years of travel. Inside, the air hummed with quiet life support systems, a soft warmth filling the narrow cabin. Alex stepped inside quickly, sealing the hatch behind him, his breath heavy in his arms. The hatchling stirred, glowing faintly like a living star. For a long moment, Alex stood still, listening. No roars followed, no sound of claws scraping against the canyon walls. The predator had not found them, at least not yet, but the silence did not calm him. It felt like the pause before a storm. He placed the hatchling gently on a padded seat. The creature blinked slowly, its silver eyes watching every movement. It was weak, trembling, its wings folded tightly against its small body. But its gaze was steady, and Alex felt the same strange bond as before, an invisible thread pulling them closer. He pulled out a ration pack, tore it open, and placed a small piece in front of the hatchling. The creature sniffed it, but turned away. Alex frowned. Food for humans was not food for dragons. He searched his supplies, thinking fast. Water, dried fruits, protein cubes, nothing seemed right. Then he remembered the readings from the scanner. Traces of minerals, strange energy signatures near the egg. Maybe the hatchling needed something more than food. He placed a small energy crystal, used for ship power, on the seat. The hatchling sniffed it, tilted its head, and then, with surprising speed, licked the glowing shard. The crystal pulsed faintly, its light dimming as the hatchling swallowed its energy. A soft sound of relief escaped its throat, and for the first time, it curled up peacefully. Alex stared, amazed. It didn't eat like humans. It fed on energy. No wonder it had survived in the egg for so long. He leaned back, exhausted, watching as the hatchling drifted into sleep. For a brief moment, the fear and the rules of his training faded. He saw not an alien, not a mission risk, but a child, a lonely child who had chosen him. He whispered, "Nova," testing the name on his lips. It felt right. A star's name, a spark of light in darkness. The hatchling shifted, as if recognizing its new name, and Alex smiled for the first time since landing on this dead world. But peace never lasted long in the universe. The ship's sensors beeped sharply, pulling him back to reality. A faint signal, large and moving, scanned across the canyon above. The predator? No, this was different, mechanical. Something was searching, something intelligent. Alex tapped the console, pulling up the display. A ship, alien in design, gliding silently across the sky. Its dark hull reflected no light, its form sharp and predatory. He froze, his breath caught. Whoever they were not here for peace. They were hunting. The hatchling stirred again, sensing the tension. It made a soft growl, small but determined, its scales flickering faintly with light. Alex placed a hand gently on its back, whispering, "It's okay." But inside, he knew it was not okay. The hatchling was not just lost, it was being hunted. And now, by saving it. He had made himself a target too. He closed his eyes for a moment, steadying his thoughts. His vow echoed in his mind. I'll raise you as my own. That vow was not just a promise to the hatchling. It was now a declaration against whatever forces wanted it destroyed. Alex opened his storage locker and pulled out a small training sphere. It was a human tool for teaching young cadets reflex and focus. He placed it on the floor, and it hovered, glowing faintly. The hatchling tilted its head, curious. When the sphere darted left, the hatchling's eyes followed, its tiny body shifting. It swiped clumsily with one wing, missing by far. But Alex laughed softly. Not bad, Nova. We'll work on it. For the first time since the ruins, the ship felt alive. Not just a machine, not just a lonely shell in the void. With Nova inside, glowing softly, it felt like home. But beyond the walls, the canyon trembled faintly. A low rumble echoed through the ground. The alien ship was landing. Lights flickered across the cliffs, sharp beams cutting through the dust. They were here, searching, and they would not leave without finding what they wanted. Alex looked at Nova, who had lifted its head, tiny sparks glowing in its throat. The hatchling was weak, still small, but there was fire inside it. Fire that could grow. Alex whispered, "We'll have to be ready, little one. They won't stop until they take you." Nova's eyes glowed brighter, as if answering the challenge. The bond between them was no longer just survival. It was trust, strength, and something greater, something that could change both of their worlds. Outside, the alien hunters moved closer, their shadows stretching across the canyon floor. Inside the ship, man and hatchling stood together. A bond had been formed, and soon it would be tested. Signs of the enemy. The canyon lay quiet beneath the pale glow of two distant moons. Alex moved carefully through the ruins again, his scanner in one hand, blaster in the other. Behind him, Nova followed clumsily, its small claws scratching against stone. The hatchling's silver eyes darted at every shadow, wings twitching nervously. It was still weak, still young, but already it was trying to walk beside him. Alex crouched near a broken wall, brushing dust away from carved symbols. They glowed faintly, reacting to his touch. The markings were not random. They were words, warnings written in an alien tongue. He activated his translator, though it struggled to keep up. The message came in fragments. Hunted, last of us, protect the flame. His chest tightened. This wasn't just a ruin, it was a grave. The people who lived here had been wiped out, and Nova's kind, maybe they were the last of their species. Nova let out a soft cry. The hatchling pressed its head against the stone, as if it remembered something deep inside. Alex placed a hand on its back, whispering, "I know, little one, will figure it out." But his heart burned with anger. Who would hunt a species until nothing remained? As they moved deeper, Alex noticed claw marks again, sharper and fresher. Not from the predator he had seen earlier. These were cleaner, more precise. His scanner flickered, picking up faint traces of radiation. Weapons fire. This place hadn't been destroyed by nature, it had been attacked. He stopped at the center of a broken chamber. Burned metal fragments lay scattered across the floor. Alex knelt and picked one up, turning in his hand. It wasn't stone, it was armor plating, alien but with familiar design. He had seen something like it before in restricted human reports. Hunters, mercenaries that moved through galaxies, wiping out whatever they were paid to erase. His jaw tightened. If they were here, if they had come for Nova's kind, then it meant Nova wasn't just a lost creature. Nova was the target. The hatchling sniffed the air suddenly, its scales flickering. A low growl rumbled in its small chest. Alex tensed, raising his blaster. The ruins echoed with faint sounds. Not claws this time. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. He crouched low, pulling Nova behind a slab of broken stone. His heart pounded as the footsteps grew louder. Through the cracks in the wall, he saw them. Figures moving in the distance, tall and armored, their helmets glowing faint red. Hunters, not beasts, not mindless predators, but intelligent killers. Their movements were precise, their weapons strapped to their backs. They weren't exploring, they were searching. One of the hunters paused, kneeling to touch the ground. Its helmet scanned the dust, picking up faint, glowing traces. The trail of the broken egg. The trail of Nova. Alex pulled the hatchling close. Nova pressed against him, silent but trembling. The bond between them was stronger now, and Alex could feel the creature's fear as if it were his own. He whispered softly, "Quiet, stay with me." The hunters' voices were low and mechanical, speaking in a language Alex's translator struggled to catch. Fragments came through: survivor, hatchling, destroy. His stomach dropped. It was true. They weren't just hunting. They were making sure no trace of Nova's kind would live. The group moved deeper into the ruins, scanning, checking every corner. Alex's mind raced. He couldn't fight them. Not yet, not with Nova so small. But he couldn't keep running forever either. He had to find answers, something that could give them an edge. He slipped further into the chamber, past the old carvings. At the far end, half buried under rubble, he found a pedestal, cracked but still glowing faintly. Symbols ran across it, circling a stone-like orb at its center. Nova perked up, stepping closer with wide eyes. The hatchling touched the orb with its snout, and suddenly the room filled with light. Holograms flickered to life. Images of great winged creatures, larger and stronger than anything Alex had imagined. They soared across alien skies, fire bursting from their throats, their wings casting shadows over cities. But the images shifted quickly, dark ships filling the skies, hunters with red, glowing eyes striking them down. Flamme, destruction, silence. And then, the last image, a single egg glowing in darkness, waiting. Alex realized this was no random egg he had found. Nova had been hidden, saved, chosen. The last hope of its species. The light faded quickly, the orb dimming until only dust remained. Nova looked up at Alex with wide, glowing eyes. It didn't understand everything, but it felt the truth. It was alone until now. Alex knelt, placing both hands on Nova's shoulders. His voice was steady, his vow stronger than before. They wanted to erase you, but I won't let them. You're not just a hatchling, Nova. You're the last of your kind, and I'll fight for you. Before Nova could respond, the sound of boots echoed closer. The hunters had heard the activation, their scanners now locking on. The ruins trembled as they advanced, their weapons humming with energy. Alex pulled Nova behind him, blaster ready. There was no more doubt. He wasn't just an explorer anymore. He was a protector, standing between humanity and extinction. And the hunters had finally found their prey. First battle, first fire. The ruins shook as the hunters advanced, their armored boots striking the stone like drums of war. Red lights flickered from their helmets, scanning every shadow, every movement. Alex crouched behind a broken wall. Nova pressed tightly against his chest. His blaster hummed with weak power. Only a few shots left. He knew he couldn't outgun them, but he had no choice. Nova let out a low growl, its silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Alex pressed a hand gently over its head, whispering, "Stay calm, little one. We'll get through this." The hatchling trembled, but didn't look away. The bond between them was no longer fragile. It was trust, and trust was strength. The first hunter stepped into the chamber, tall and heavy. Its armor shimmered with strange markings, its weapon glowing with sharp, red energy. It turned slowly, scanning. Alex's heart pounded so loudly, he feared it would give them away. Another hunter entered, then another, until 3 stood in the ruins. Their voices were low and sharp. The translator whispered fragments. Hatchling, destroy, no survivors. Alex's jaw tightened. This was no hunt for food, no random mission. This was extermination. Dust crumbled from the ceiling as one hunter fired a scanning beam. The red light swept across the chamber, growing closer. Alex whispered, "Now or never," and raised his blaster. The shot cracked through the ruins, bright blue light striking the first hunter in the chest. The alien staggered back, armor scorched. Nova cried out, startled by the sudden noise. The second hunter roared and fired back, a beam slicing through the wall where Alex had been hiding. Stone shattered, filling the air with smoke and dust. Alex dove to another cover, clutching Nova tightly. His lungs burned with dust, but his focus stayed sharp. Another shot, another flash. He hit one hunter's shoulder, forcing its weapon to drop. But they were too strong, too many. His blaster beeped, a warning of low charge. He had only one shot left. The hunters closed in, their heavy steps echoing louder. Alex pressed his back against the wall, shielding Nova with his body. He whispered, voice shaking but firm, "If this is it, I'll protect you until my last breath." Nova vimpired, pressing closer. Then something changed. Its small body grew hot, the glow inside its chest brighter than ever before. Alex felt it through his suit, like fire waiting to break free. Nova lifted its head, eyes blazing with silver light. The tiny hatchling gave a cry, high and sharp, and sparks danced in the air. The hunters paused, confused. They had expected a weak creature, helpless and small. But Nova's glow grew brighter, its throat trembling with power. Then, with a sudden burst, a stream of fire erupted, small but fierce. It struck the nearest hunter across the arm. The alien roared in shock as its armor hissed and cracked under the flames. Alex's eyes widened. It wasn't much, just a spark, just a breath, but it was enough. Nova had fire, real fire. "Good, Nova!" "Again!" Alex shouted, his voice full of hope. The hatchling growled, its small chest glowing brighter. Another burst of flame leapt out, forcing the hunters to step back, their armor smoking. They fired wildly in return, beams tearing into the ruins. Alex ducked, shielding Nova as stone rained down. But the hatchling stood taller now, sparks dripping from its jaws. Its fear was turning into strength. One hunter lunged forward, raising a blade-like weapon. Alex fired his last shot, striking it in the helmet. The alien fell, sparks flickering across its armor. The other two snarled, advancing faster. Alex pulled Nova back, searching desperately for an escape. Then the ground shook. A section of the ruins collapsed, stone crashing between them and the hunters. Dust filled the chamber, blocking their view. Alex didn't waste a second. He scooped Nova into his arms and ran. His heart thundered in his chest, every step carrying him further from death. Outside the ruins, the night was alive with red searchlights. The hunter's ship loomed above, scanning the valley. Alex stumbled into the canyon shadows, his breath ragged. Nova clung to him, glowing faintly, its small chest still sparking with fire. They collapsed behind a boulder, hidden for now. Alex leaned against the rock, his hands shaking. He looked down at Nova, who blinked up at him with fierce silver eyes. For the first time, the hatchling looked less like a child and more like a survivor. "You saved us," Alex whispered, on his voice. Nova tilted its head, a faint puff of smoke rising from its mouth. A small sound escaped it, not a cry of fear this time, but a growl of determination. Alex smiled weakly, brushing dust from its scales. "Your fire may be small now," he said softly, "but it's only the beginning. Together, we'll make sure they never take you." Above them, the alien ship circled again, its red lights sweeping across the valley. The hunters had been wounded, but they weren't defeated. They would return, stronger, angrier. But Alex no longer felt hopeless. For the first time, he had seen Nova's true spark, and he knew that spark would grow into a storm. The test of trust. The canyon was quiet again, but Alex knew it was only for now. The hunters had pulled back to their ship, but they would not stop. They had seen the hatchlings fire. They would come again, stronger. And next time, they would not make mistakes. Alex sat inside his ship, staring at the hatchling who now rested on a padded blanket. Nova's small body glowed faintly, tiny sparks escaping its mouth as it breathed. It had used its fire for the first time, but the effort had left it weak. Alex ran a hand through his hair, his mind heavy. He whispered to himself, How do I keep you safe? The rules of his training were clear. Report new life forms, send samples, and wait for orders. But Alex could not follow those rules anymore. He had already broken them the moment he carried Nova into his arms. If Earth Command learned of Nova, they would take the hatchling away, study it, lock it in a lab. They wouldn't see a child, they'd see a weapon. And Alex would rather fight the hunters than let that happen. Nova stirred, lifting its head weakly. Its silver eyes locked onto Alex, searching, waiting. He reached out, his hand brushing its warm scales. You trust me, don't you? He whispered. The hatchling blinked slowly, then pressed its head against his hand. That single gesture was louder than words. It trusted him completely, but trust was not enough. Nova was still fragile, still learning. If it was to survive, it needed to grow stronger. And Alex knew that meant pushing the hatchling, even when it was afraid. The next morning, he took Nova into the canyon. The sky burned orange with twin suns rising, shadows stretching long. Alex placed the training sphere on the ground again, letting it hover and dart around. Nova tilted its head, watching. Its tail flicked nervously, but it did not move. Come on, little one, Alex said gently. You have fire inside you, you just have to use it. The sphere zipped to the left. Nova followed it with its eyes, but stayed frozen. Alex sighed, crouching low. You're scared, I know, but fear can't control you forever. He thought of his own life, of the times he had failed training simulations because he hesitated. His commanders had called him soft, said he thought too much with his heart. Now he realized that softness was his strength. It was the reason he could bond with Nova when no one else would. He held the hatchling's gaze, steady and calm. I'll be here with you, always. Something shifted in Nova's eyes. It growled softly, spreading its small wings. The sphere darted again. This time, Nova pounced, clumsy but determined. Its claws swiped the sphere, sending sparks across the ground. Alex laughed, the sound breaking through the tension. That's it. That's the fire I'm talking about. Nova chirped proudly, puffing a small burst of smoke from its mouth. But the moment of joy ended quickly. The ship's alarm blared, echoing across the canyon. Alex's chest tightened. He sprinted back to the console, Nova stumbling after him. The screen showed movement in orbit. Not just one ship, 3. The hunters had called for reinforcements. Alex clenched his fists. He had known they would return, but this soon? The situation was worse than he thought. They didn't just want Nova, they wanted extinction complete. They wanted to erase the very idea of Nova's kind. He turned to the hatchling, who was watching him with wide, glowing eyes. Nova did not understand ships, weapons, or extermination orders, but it understood fear, and it understood Alex. He knelt, placing both hands on Nova's shoulders. His voice was steady though his heart shook. We don't have much time. They're coming for you. But if we work together, we can fight. But you have to trust me completely. Do you understand? Nova blinked, then pressed its head into his chest, a low rumble vibrating in its throat. The bond between them deepened. It wasn't just a promise anymore. It was a choice. Nova chose him, and he chose Nova. The ground rumbled as the hunters' ships began to descend. Dust blew across the canyon, rocks shaking loose. Alex stood, lifting Nova into his arms. The hatchling's glow grew brighter, sparks flickering from its mouth. Together they faced the sky, 2 against many, but no longer afraid. They think you're the last, Alex whispered, fire in his eyes. But as long as I'm alive, you'll never be alone, and together, we'll show them humanity's flame. Outside, the hunters' ships lowered, weapons glowing red. The test of trust was over. The real war was about to begin. Humanity's flame. The night sky burned red as the hunters' ships descended. Engines roared across the canyon, shaking stone loose from the cliffs. Their shadows stretched long and sharp, swallowing the valley in darkness. Alex stood at the ship's hatch, Nova at his side, both staring at the storm that was coming. He felt no more hesitation. This was no longer about survival. This was war. He whispered to Nova, "Stay close. Follow my lead. We fight together." The hatchling growled softly, sparks flickering in its throat. For the first time, it did not look afraid. The first hunter ship landed with a heavy crash, dust exploding into the air. Armored figures poured out, weapons glowing red. Their voices echoed through the canyon, sharp and cold. Eliminate the hatchling, leave nothing alive. Alex raised his blaster, his grip steady. Nova spread its small wings, silver eyes blazing. The hunters charged. Alex fired first, his shot striking one in the chest, sparks exploding across its armor. Nova followed with a sharp cry, releasing a burst of fire. The flames weren't large, but they were fierce, forcing the hunters to scatter. The bond between them turned fear into strength. Man and hatchling fought as one. The canyon became a battlefield. Blaster fire lit the night, beams carving scars across the stone. Nova leapt forward, its claws glowing faintly, snapping at the legs of a hunter. Alex rolled behind cover, firing to protect the hatchling. One hunter fell, armor smoking, but more pressed in. There were too many. Alex's chest burned with exhaustion, but he refused to give in. He shouted, "Nova, now!" The hatchling roared, small but powerful, and unleashed a wider burst of fire than ever before. The flames wrapped around a hunter, melting its weapon into slag. The alien screamed and fell. Nova stumbled from the effort, its body shaking. Alex rushed to its side, lifting it. "You're stronger than you think," he whispered. "Don't stop now." The hunters regrouped, surrounding them. Their leader stepped forward, taller than the rest, its armor darker, its weapon pulsing with deep red energy. It raised its blade and pointed at Nova. "The last flame dies tonight," the translator whispered. Alex's blood boiled. He stood tall, shielding Nova with his body. "Not while I'm alive," he said, voice firm as steel. The leader charged, blade slicing through the air. Alex fired, striking its chest, but the shot barely dented the armor. The blade slashed across the ground, sparks flying. Nova cried out, leaping from Alex's arms. Its silver eyes glowed brighter than ever. The fire inside it roared, no longer small, no longer weak. The hatchling spread its wings wide, light bursting from its scales. A storm of flame erupted, brighter than the hunters' weapons. The canyon lit up like a second sun. Hunters screamed as the firestorm engulfed them, their armor cracking, their weapons melting. Even the leader staggered back, its blade dropping to the ground. Alex shielded his eyes from the brightness, his heart pounding. When the flames cleared, smoke hung heavy in the air. The hunters lay scattered, broken and retreating. Their leader crawled back toward its ship, fear glowing in its red eyes. For the first time, the hunters were not predators. They were prey. Nova stood at the center of the canyon, trembling but unbroken. Its wings glowed faintly, its chest still burning with light. Alex walked to its side, placing a steady hand on its warm scales. "You did it," he whispered, voice thick with pride. "You're not alone anymore, and as long as I'm here, you never will be." Above them, the hunters' ships began to retreat, engines roaring as they fled into the sky. The canyon fell silent once more, only the crackle of fading flames breaking the stillness. Alex dropped to one knee, exhausted but alive. Nova pressed against him, its warmth filling the cold air. Together, they had survived, but Alex knew this was not the end. The hunters would return. They would bring more ships, more firepower. The galaxy would not allow Nova's kind to rise again without a fight. But Alex no longer feared that future. He looked at Nova and saw not a hatchling, but hope. Hope for something greater than himself, greater than humanity. The flame of a species reborn. He whispered softly, "They will fear us now, not because of me, but because of you, because you carry the fire they could not kill." Nova lifted its head, releasing one final cry into the night sky. It was no longer the sound of a frightened child. It was the sound of a dragon, a promise that the last flame of its kind had not been extinguished. Alex smiled, his eyes fixed on the stars above. The war was coming, but tonight, Humanity had lit a fire that would never die.